Hello, everyone. This is Talks with Iron Nomad. Today's podcast is part 2 of a 2-part series featuring game developer Crankage Games. If you enjoy these podcasts and would love to show your support, consider becoming a patron. Doing so will allow me to focus on more podcasting content. You can check this out at patron.podbean.com/Iron Nomad. Thank you. Check out Crankage Games on Steam. This includes Metal as Fuck, The Chronicles of Quiverdick, Quiverdick's Terrible Tale for Terrible Parents to read to their equally terrible children, Damn Daniel, Deported 1, Drain the Swamp, and Deported 2, Build That Wall. You can grab these as a bundle deal. If you find pleasure in crude humor RPGs, give them a try. In part 2 of the series, we will be covering topics revolving around anxiety and some helpful tips on crushing anxiety. Enjoy.
You know, one of the things that really helped me with anxiety with the whole streaming thing, honestly, was that's not even the tip of the iceberg as far as anxiety that I've dealt with in my life. You know, like I was going through a bad time at that point, but there was also a time where for years I didn't leave the house. I did have crippling anxiety. When I would go to I would go to the grocery store and I would break down, I would cry in the aisle and people would stare, and you know, I couldn't go anywhere. I didn't go to family functions. I stopped going to the grocery store. There was a time where I couldn't drive. I couldn't drive because I would shake so bad that I couldn't sit in the driver's seat. I just never left. The only places I would go would be doctor's appointments, and then come straight home. I didn't leave the house. I was a recluse. I didn't talk to anybody. I had no friends. You know, I just was stuck in, and this was pretty close, like right before game development, essentially, right before game development. And in between training in MMA, I had gone through my injuries. I couldn't go to the gym. I couldn't do anything. I was stuck. There was times where I was stuck for 3 months straight in bed.
Wow.
Just 3 months in bed, and it led to depression. I couldn't move. I couldn't, you know, do the things I wanted to do, and then that depression and anxiety. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't do anything. I just went to my doctor's appointments. And that was it. That was my life. You know, go to doctor's appointments, come home, and stay at home, and usually play World of Warcraft, which was where I kind of got heavily addicted to World of Warcraft because it was my only social outlet, and I couldn't deal with the real world anymore. I couldn't go out and I couldn't talk to people. I felt uncomfortable. I felt alone in a crowd of people. You know, always.
Wow.
And it essentially, it was exposure therapy that brought me out of it, and it's the hardest therapy to do because it literally is doing exactly what you don't want to do.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's also it's known to be the most successful too, to have the best results. It's literally facing your fears. And I just did it a little bit at a time. I remember when I got my license, I was so scared to drive, and I would just sit in the driver's seat and for a couple minutes and go back inside. That's all I could handle. And then, you know, a little bit later, I'd sit in the driver's seat, back out of the driveway, and then go back inside. That's all I could handle, you know. Sit in the driver's seat, back out of the driveway, go down the street. That's all I could handle, you know, until I worked myself up to being able to take my driver's test. And then when I took my driver's test, I was so nervous. I was shaking so bad. I ended up trusting somebody's blinker, and they put on their blinker to turn. I went to pull out, and they kept going straight with their blinker on and almost slammed into us. And it was a traffic hazard automatic fail. So I failed my driver's test. But it taught me to always trust that. And since then, I was so upset. I was like, oh my God, I finally worked myself up. You know, I finally got enough courage to go and take my test, and I failed 5 minutes into it. And I don't know if I'm, you know, like that's such a heartbreaking thing, because I worked so hard to get through the anxiety just to be there and taking the test. And I was so upset about it that it happened. And then eventually, like later on, when I actually got my license and I started driving, there were so many times where somebody had their blinker on and they kept going straight, but I knew So I'm glad that it happened. I failed for a reason. Sometimes we just don't know what the reason is. But again, remember, like being redirected towards something more useful. It was a blessing in disguise. I'm glad that it happened. I was upset at the time, but it just saved us from some worse luck.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
And so I ended up taking my driver's test again a couple of months later. It took me that long to work back into being mentally all right for it. And I went in and I was so much more confident this time. I was so much more confident. And I was like, I got this, you know? And I went and failed my driver's test again. And I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding. It was crushing. It was crushing. So, you know, and I parallel parked just fine. That was fine. And she said, you know, there was just a couple of things that you didn't do properly. Like you looked over the wrong shoulder when you were doing this, or you're changing lanes or something like that, or, you know, just little things. And she said, what you need to understand is that you're not a bad driver, but unfortunately, we're not testing you on how well you're driving. We're testing you on how well you can take the test. And she says it's a flaw. She said it's a flawed system, and we understand it's a flawed system. There's people that we give licenses to that probably shouldn't be driving, but that's what we do. That's my job. I have to grade you based on these things. Go home, read the book, you practice, etc. So I took a couple of weeks. I practiced. I tried to get everything right. I came back in. I'm like, okay, let's do this. And I go out for a third time. And I failed my driving test again. And I was like, you've got to be kidding. I was like, I even asked her, I said, so how did I do? And I knew I got it. I was 1 point short.
Oh, geez.
And she's like, I'm sorry. And I said, this is the third time. I had made a promise to my partner at the time. And I was like, I made it because she pushed me to drive for so long. And I was like, I can't go home without my license today. You know, I made a promise that I was going to get it. What can I do? You know? And I was basically in tears at this point. I was like, I can't break this promise. And she said, you were really close. Take 30 minutes. Go practice on the thing the couple of things that you messed up on. Come back here, and I won't charge you for another go. And we'll do it today in 30 minutes. But if you fail it, then that's it. You're done. You need to you need to go with like a different instructor or a different school or whatever, you know.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It was. And I said, okay, thank you, I appreciate it. And I went out and I practiced, and I came back and took it for the fourth time, and I got the license. I went home with a license that day. But
awesome.
I was so scared. I was so nervous because I had failed 3 times, especially twice. I was very confident that I was going to get it. So now I'm not even sure of my own judgment, of my own ability. You know, so my anxiety was, you know, maybe even worse the 4th time, because I was like, I don't know how good I'm doing. I'm a terrible judgment of my performance, apparently. And I don't know if I'm going to get it or not. And she said, you know, but this is your chance, you know, 30 minutes, be back in 30 minutes. And it was take it or leave it. And I was like, I'll take it immediately. Everything that was in my stomach was like those bad butterflies, you know. I was real nervous and stuff, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. But immediately my mouth said, I'll do it. I'll do it, because I knew that I had to keep that promise. I knew I had, you know, and it wasn't even, I didn't hesitate. I just said, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I went out and I said, I got to do this, you know. And I just kept thinking in my head something that another fighter had said, Chael Sonnen. He said, you know, we will not refuse to participate for the fear of failure. It's fine. We don't have to feel good that day. We don't have to. We're all afraid, you know. Where there's never a day that's going to go by where we're not afraid of what's going to happen or something. But we learn to compete with it. We learn to go out there. Somebody is going to win and somebody is going to lose. In MMA terms, it says, but those are the odds we agree to. We like those odds. That's fine. We understand that somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose, but we're not going to refuse to participate because we're afraid to fail. Because if you're afraid to fail, you'll never try anything. You'll never get the grades you want. You'll never get the girlfriends you want. You'll never get the job you want. You'll never go anywhere in life if you refuse to participate because you're afraid to fail. Because you automatically fail when you don't participate. You can't get where you want to go if you're not doing it. Yep. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to refuse to participate because I'm afraid to fail the 4th time. So I said, I'll do it. And I kept repeating it in my head, repeating it in my head, repeating it in my head. I even said it out loud a few times. Then I went and I practiced, came back, I got my license. I went home happy, relieved, and I was very, very happy. And ever since then, I've been driving and stuff, and the anxiety kind of worked itself out. And then I kind of, I went more places. I drove more places. I spent more time at grocery stores. I spent more time, and I just kind of like put myself back into those really uncomfortable situations until I got used to them, and it took a long time, but it was all just exposing myself to what I was afraid of. And that's why I'm able to, I guess, go places that I'm able to go today, because I just didn't, I knew that what I was doing in my life wasn't working. And I knew, and exactly what you had said, we only have a certain amount of time. Why sit here and rot? Why waste away? And especially when I knew I had a lot of potential to do something. So I figured, got to do it. But yeah, so I've been in those dark holes. I've been through a lot of things. I still to this day, I deal with suicidal thoughts on a daily basis, every day. It doesn't go away, but we just essentially we learn to compete with it. We learn to go out there and get shit done with it. And we take it a day at a time and just keep on pushing. Because at the end of the day, if we stop, the time's going to pass one way or another, and time waits for no man.
Exactly.
And in 3 months from now, we could be exactly where we are right now, or we could be 3 months ahead. So I choose to push every day.
Yeah. Oh man. Wow. That's powerful stuff. I love it. One thing that you would like to share, or something that you would do to help people when they're in that situation.
So the best preventative that I have found has been exercise. Like, hands down, the best preventative, or even bioenergetics. I know a lot of people are not very familiar with bioenergetics, but essentially it's the understanding that anxiety is not just psychological, but it's physiological, and that anxiety exists in the body as well. And the mind and the body they're connected. They're one thing. So we carry a lot of depression and anxiety and that energy in our bodies. It's the reason why we slump down, or our breathing gets a little more shallow, or quickens, or things like that. And we carry a lot of it in here, and we carry a lot of it in our shoulders and in our necks and things like that. And essentially what bioenergetics is it's releasing the energy that we're depressing down. We're expressing it. So it would be essentially not holding in emotions, not holding in anything. If you feel like crying but you can't cry, you pretend to cry until you actually can get the tears out. You force them out. If you want to have a good time, you want to smile, you want to feel good, but you just can't, because you force yourself to smile, you force yourself to fake laugh until it comes out. You get the energy out. You don't hold anything in. If you feel like running around the house, if you feel like screaming at the top of your lungs, if you feel like jumping up and down on the bed, you go and you do those things. If you feel like jumping up and down in place and flailing your arms around, you do those things. You just express all of the energy that's built up and pent up inside of yourself that you feel uncomfortable expressing. You feel uncomfortable because you're afraid of what people would think, or you're afraid of, you were just in a situation where you had to stuff all of that energy in. You were like, man, I feel obligated to be here, but I don't want to be here. You are just turtling up. You're stuffing all of that energy down. You're not able to express it because you feel uncomfortable expressing it. You don't want to tell the person that, hey, I'm very uncomfortable being here. Like I'm at my sister's wedding, and there's so many people here, and this sucks, and I just want to scream, but I'm not going to, because that would be weird. It'd be weird to scream in front of all these people, right? But now you need to go home and you need to scream. You need to get out all the energy that you just stuffed down, because we escape from situations that make us uncomfortable, but then we never release the energy. So then it just kind of piles on, and it piles on, and it piles on, and our bodies are affected because of that. And then our brains are affected because of that. And essentially we just have to, we have to spend daily time getting rid of that energy that just is built up inside of us. Otherwise, we'll end up cracking at some point. So I'd highly recommend bioenergetics. It's worked for me. It's done a pretty good job.
I greatly appreciate that for sharing that. That's that's something that I never heard about that until now. So
Right.
I appreciate that.
Mm, you feel.
Oh, go ahead.
It feels really stupid. It feels really silly because people don't want to make funny faces. I mean, people don't want to jump up on the bed. People don't want to scream, or their family is around and they can't find a quiet place to do it, so they feel really uncomfortable, or even like they there's some videos online. You could go on YouTube. You could type. Elliot Holtz has some really good bioenergetic videos.
Okay, I actually seen some of his stuff. So that's
okay,
awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. So Elliot Holtz's bioenergetics videos. If you look up a video called, it's actually, he removed it from his channel, but other people have uploaded it. It's called Bioenergetics for Catharsis. Look up that one.
Okay.
And that's it. Really, he goes through the process and he does it and he releases the energy and explains why and everything, and it breaks it down into detail over I think 8 minutes or so. And it works. It really works. And the first time I watched it, I turned it off and I was like, no, I'm uncomfortable doing that. I'm not going to do that. That looks silly. And then and I watched it again. I was like, well, I mean, what have I got to lose, right? I mean, I'm suffering. I know what I'm doing in my daily life isn't working, so why not try something different?
Exactly. Exactly.
And I gave it a try. I felt a little bit better. And then I tried it the next day, and I felt a little bit better. And I tried it the next day, and I felt a lot better. And the more you do it, the better you feel. And until you just get used to it, and then you start feeling really damn good.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So,
Man, thank you so much for sharing that. What I was gonna say, and I don't know if this might be completely off subject with it, but it kind of reminds me of like a kid. Okay, like I have a 16-month-old, and when they scream or when they act out real quick, I wonder if biologically that's their defense to having anxiety. It kind of, to me, that kind of sounds like, along the same things, because when you look at a kid, okay, and like my daughter, when she goes and picks up like a 5-pound dumbbell on her own, like, and she's does perfect form, squatting down, deadlifts it up, and then walks away with it. And I'm just like, dude, like, people would pay to have the form she has. Or when she runs or when she does things, it's like, man, it sucks that, outside influences in our environment and everything makes us act different ways. Because I feel like everything that's in us when we're kids is like, I'm not going to say perfect, not that word, but,
right.
it's damn awesome, So I wonder if that's kind of along the same lines of, how kids release their stress, when kids act out like that and they scream, and then it's like, man, what kind of tantrum are you throwing? And the next thing you know, they're laughing and they're playing with their friends and stuff, and it's like, man, this got me thinking about that,
Right, and that's, I mean, they say ignorance is bliss, and kids are ignorant until they grow up and they realize, oh shit, there are a lot of outside influences, aren't there? Or, oh wow, somebody actually might think that I look silly doing this, huh?
Yep.
But at first they don't care.
Yeah.
They're kids. They're playing. They feel like doing something. They do it.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that's why they don't get depressed and they don't have anxiety until they get older, and then it starts kind of coming in.
Everything just kind of flows. At first they're like, they don't care. They'll pull their pants down, or little girls will lift their shirts up, and my daughter right now, we'll be playing and she'll just pop a squat and poop, but then as time goes on, she's like, whoa, I probably shouldn't be doing this in front of you. And she'll start going out in another room and poop. And then she comes back in and I'm like, you smell like poop, girl. Like, so it's exactly how it is. They just, over time, it kind of, oh man, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, or I do look funny or something. It's awesome to look at kids and wonder about their life. And, there's I'm actually writing a blog on it currently about how my kid is helping me with anxiety. It's it has a couple good pieces like that in there, and I'm definitely going to use what we just talked about in there as well, because that's definitely something that I see her do a lot, and I definitely think us all humans should be doing that because I do get that way. I get anxiety when I go to functions like that. I try to get out of family functions, and
Right.
my family watches this podcast. Well, now they know. And because my anxiety, if the room is over, I'm pretty decent around close family now. It used to be bad, especially once I started going places with my wife and meeting her family and stuff. And she has a decent sized family. I would be like, dude, I'm not going. I don't want to go. And then we would fight. Well, we would fight
Right.
because I was pushing back. And I was pushing back
Mhm.
because I was anxious to do it. There was no reason for me not to go. I wanted to go. I wanted to hang out with these people. And most of the time, it's free, great food. You know, you always eat when you go to them functions. But I would find stupid shit to argue about, and it wasn't me. You know, I wasn't being iron. I was being some jackass that was fighting with my girlfriend, fiance, wife because I was scared to go because I knew once I got there, I would be inside my head. You know,
Right.
so when I would come home from those events, you know, I needed that outlet. So now that thanks
Yeah.
for sharing that, because now that I know,
Mhm.
that, I'm gonna watch that video and I think it'll help me greatly. I
Yeah,
hope
for
hopefully
sure.
the audience gets something out of it too, because that's something that I don't see too mainstream about. You know,
Right.
um,
And you know, it's interesting as far as like the whole kids not caring thing. One of the greatest fighters of all time is Anderson Silva. He was damn good for a long time, and he always said, he said go out there and play. You know, he said that's his
yes,
mentality. Is he goes out there and he has fun. He says it's not serious. It's not. Don't go out there and look at it like a fight. Don't go out there and look at it like, you know, a sport. It doesn't matter about winning and losing. Just go out there and have fun. Just go out there and play. And when I adapted that to even my training, and I just went in there and I was always in there. And I was like, man, I got to impress people. You know, I was always in there trying really hard. And I was like, I got to impress the coaches. I got to do everything right. I've got to do this. I got to do that. You know, you got to make sure that this is right, and got to have a good performance. And when I went in there and said, you know what, I'm good where I'm at. I'm just gonna relax. I don't care. I don't care what people think. I don't care. I don't care what people think. I don't care if they think that I look silly because I'm using this technique and this style or something. I don't care how it looks. I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to try new things. And as I started to try new things, they started working, and people didn't see them coming. And people, you know, because you get used to fighting is like they say it's 70% mental. I would say it's closer to 90%. It's a performance, and performance is 90% mental generally. You know, but the thing is it it's called martial arts for a reason. It is an art form, you know, and we need to be creative. We need to go out there and we need to have fun with what we're doing, and we need to treat it like the art that it is. And it doesn't necessarily have to be so structured. So a lot of times, one of the reasons why Anderson Silva was so successful is because you get used to training against somebody that's always got their hands up, because that's what you're supposed to do.
yeah,
You get used to training against people who have proper technique, because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to have proper technique. That's what we're taught. Anderson Silva went in there with his hands down. And now you haven't trained against somebody who leaves their hands down. You don't know where the punches are coming. You don't know what, you know, what angles they're coming from. You don't, because he doesn't train the way. He goes out there and he says, fuck what we're supposed to do. I'm going to do what I want to do. And you can't prepare for somebody like that. So he had a lot of success because he went out there and he had fun, and he went out there and he did the things that nobody else was doing, because you can't train for somebody like that. You know what I mean?
yeah, yep,
And it worked for him. It was a great style. It worked for him, and that's the same thing I went in there and I started doing, and I started leaving my hands down. I started just having fun with it, and it worked for me, and it worked really, really well. And it was the best performances I ever had was when I went in there, and instead of thinking, oh man, I really want to do this technique, but it's going to look silly, or I know it's not the right thing, you know, and I don't want the coach to call me out on doing this because it's not proper, you know. And I went in there and I just did it anyways, and the coach isn't going to complain if what you're doing is working. You know, you develop your own style. You go out there, and if it's working, it works for you, and if it's not broke, don't fix it, you know. So but yeah, that's where the best performances came from, was when I went out there and I didn't care what people thought. and it works. So I think that it's definitely definitely onto something there. As far as kids, they don't care what people think. They're just
Yeah.
going to go out there and they're going to do what they
Yeah.
want, you know. So
Absolutely. You said that not necessarily that you don't like the word luck or you don't use the word luck, but you like to be considered blessed instead of luck.
sure,
Um,
right.
that is something that I've literally followed my entire life. But to my best friend, to my wife, to my parents, like they'd say, good luck or good luck, and to me, it's not. I personally don't believe the luck because you work for what you get. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you put the time in, you get what you get, and if there's a situation that's unexplained that fell into your lap, then I truly believe I'm blessed. Like I truly
Mm-hmm.
believe that either A happened for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
or B it was destined to be that way because it's going to bring either a different outcome down the road. So there was a specific uh that specific situation was predetermined, basically is what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying. And
Right.
so the whole luck, the whole luck thing is just kind of, it's, I don't know, it's just when you said that, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I really can relate to you on that level. Because even in like video games when I'm playing with my buddies and I see a luck stat, I like I don't even put anything into those stats. I'm just
Right.
like, oh, strength and charisma and all this stuff. And what about your luck stat? You find stuff better. I don't care. I don't care. I'll find it. I'll find it eventually. I'll get it there eventually. It's just, that's just one of the things that you had said in one of your streams and on Twitter that I'm just like, damn, like that's just I don't know, it's just something that I can really really relate to you on is I think that it's good events like that happen because we are blessed as humans. You know?
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a saying: "Luck is when hard work meets opportunity." You know, and essentially, it's just like we get those opportunities because we've worked hard. If you don't work hard, those opportunities are going to come around, but you're not going to be ready for them. You're not going to be prepared for them. You didn't put yourself in the position to be able to accept those opportunities. You know, which would then be unlucky, wouldn't it? You know, so people that are saying, "Oh, it's luck because you got offered this opportunity and I didn't." Yeah, but I also worked hard to get to the point where I could be offered that opportunity. You know, and if you didn't and that opportunity came around, you wouldn't be able to take it. You know, it's
Yeah,
not luck.
exactly.
It's when hard work meets opportunity. And then also I do believe that everything does happen for a reason. I think that anytime I've ever been denied a job or anything, filled out job applications, went for an interview, didn't get it, it's always I also believe in the saying, every time I thought I was being rejected, I was really being redirected towards something better. Um, and everything's always worked out that way.
Yeah.
Anytime I would get really upset about something, which again brings me into another saying that I really love, and I live by this one. You never know what worse luck your bad luck saved you from. And that's, like we could be driving down the road and yeah, it might be shitty to get a flat tire, but we don't know that we wouldn't have ended up in a bad car wreck if we didn't, or
Exactly.
we miss our exit, but why complain about it? Because that might have just saved our life. We don't know. We don't know. So instead, there's a 50% chance. So why do we choose to focus on the negative? Yeah, we missed our exit and that sucks, but it could have been a lot worse. We don't know. That might have been the best thing that ever happened to us.
Yep.
So instead of focusing on the negative of it, just kind of accept it and understand that it happened for whatever reason it happened for, and move on and continue on what you're doing. Being negative and focusing on the negative never helped anybody.
Yeah. Now that even
So
worsens anxiety. Like that's
yeah,
one of
for
the,
sure.
one of the contributing factors is anxiety is focusing on the future, stuff that didn't happen yet. You're amping
Mm-hmm.
yourself up and you're worrying about something that has a strong possibility of not even happening.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you get into those situations where I call them negative Nancy, and when they get
Mm-hmm.
into that, their anxiety gets risen, and I'm the same way about it because I have a strong imagination. So
Mm-hmm.
when I plan on things going wrong, that's when my anxiety goes bad. When I'm about to give like a speech to somewhere or do something with my job where I'm about to go talk to a very important person or do something in that nature, I'm like, oh
Right.
shit, this is gonna go bad. I start getting negative on myself, And that's when I'm like, wait, this hasn't happened yet. Like, I'm
Right.
not Back to the Future. There's no time machine here. I don't know what's
Mhm.
gonna happen. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
could go in there and it could be worse, you know? I could be worse than what I'm imagining. Or it could be way better. It could be great, you know?
Mhm.
And I think those are the big things that people need to kind of hopefully make a trigger in their head to know,
Mhm.
like, well, exactly what you said. Man, I got a flat tire, but this flat tire could have saved me from a drunk driver coming down the road and hitting me, or
Right.
getting T-boned at an intersection because someone ran a red light. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like, and those are the kind of situations that I do feel that could lessen people's anxiety when they do start taking a more positive, and you don't have to be positive Paulie about everything. I like
Right.
nicknames here. You don't have to be, oh, life's so great and blah 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 all this time, because life is
Right.
suffering. We do suffer in this life, and
Sure.
that's fine. That's absolutely freaking fine. That's why we have other humans and other relationships, and that's why we have dogs. Love dogs. So we can get out of those slumps. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
At the same time, though, like, you can't be negative about a future that you're completely unsure about happening.
Right.
I'm a huge believer in stoicism, so I believe in metamora. I could die at any time, any given
Yep.
time. I can just boom fall off the face of the earth. That's another thing that helps my anxiety. Why would I sit here and worry about what's about to happen when it hasn't happened yet, and two, I'm
Mhm.
wasting time from everything around me right now. Wasting time from
Right.
spending with my wife. I'm wasting time spending with my child at this time, with my child soon to be born. I'm wasting all
Mhm.
this time that I could be with family, with friends, enjoying my life, doing the worry portion, getting my anxiety hyped up. When all
Right.
I got to remember is, dude, we have a finite amount of time on this planet. Like, we need
Yeah.
to we need to use our time. And
Yeah.
and hopefully when people start realizing that a little bit better, hopefully anxiety can slowly start creeping out of their lives.
Mhm.
Hopefully.
Yeah, it's like Henry Rollins said, there is no spare time, there is no pastime, there is no free time. All you've got is time left. So, get to
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. I
It's
need to I need to get a book of crankage quotes.
I just pull, I try and quote. That was from Henry Rollins. I try and quote the people that I know that they're from. I don't always know who they're from, but
Yeah.
yeah.
There's people who work, there's a work, and then there's a work, if that makes sense.
Right.
You know,
That makes sense.
there's
Yeah.
there's working, I'm gonna work. I'm going to do my job. I'm gonna come home. I'm gonna, feed my family, or, do this or do that for my family. Good deal. And then there's, like, I need to work to
Right.
do this for my family. And then there's that next step that I call it the ascended step. I'm gonna work to make sure my family's, taken care of, and then I'm going to work to make sure, you know we don't have to worry about anything. My wife doesn't have to
Yeah.
worry about things. My kids don't have to worry about things. And
Yeah.
and you're definitely, to me, you're definitely in the third tier, my friend. You definitely work your ass off, and to hear the stories of where you came from and where you're at now, and what you're doing. It's definitely something people need to hear, and I definitely respect you for that, and I appreciate you sharing your story big time.
I appreciate you saying that, and it's interesting that you used that. Like, the third tier is I'm going to work. Uh, not just beyond like taking care of your family and stuff, but working so you can make sure that they're taken care like later and stuff too. Because that literally is why I'm doing what I'm doing, is because I push this hard and I put the hours in and the effort in, because I don't want to just scrape by. I don't want to just be like, okay, we're okay for now. I want to prepare for emergencies. I want
Yes.
to prepare so for security. That's the most important thing to me, is being able to, if we end up in one of those bad situations, that we're going to be okay. I don't want to have to go through those hardships, so I would rather prepare now. And I guess it's kind of like we learn these stories when we're kids, the Three Little Pigs,
Yes.
and how we're gonna build our houses and stuff. And it's a hell of a lot harder to build a house out of brick than it is out of straw and sticks. Heavier, and it's just, but it's worth it,
Yeah.
because it's just we fortify ourselves. And that's why I want to do. It's why I invested my time into something that didn't pay nearly as much now, because I knew it would pay off later.
Yeah.
And as long as I kept on pushing, it would pay off later, and I would get that security at some point. So it was, I knew I just had to suffer through it now, and eventually I would see success. And I think we're finally starting to get there. Finally starting to get there.
Awesome.
So,
Good. I'm
yeah.
glad to hear that. Big time.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, hey, I appreciate it, and thank you for taking the time. And hopefully, hopefully our listeners and viewers can take what you said and use it in their personal life and gain some traction if they're in a hole, or if they're just if they're down and out and need something to listen to build them up and give them a positive message. Hopefully they can listen to that and gain that traction. I appreciate it. I definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you inviting me.
Hope you enjoyed this podcast as much as I did recording it. If so, please subscribe to this channel so you can stay up to date with my future podcasts. Thank you.